Okay, well, I want to thank the Crane Trust. I want to thank Conservation Nebraska.
Yep.
For having me, but also my special friends with me today to come out here and to give you a little insight on some raptors. Okay, so a little kind of background history. I have many hats. So first off, I started volunteering with our Raptor Recovery Program, which is a program that goes out to injured birds. And when I started doing that, I got more involved with the Raptor program. My job then at the Edgerton Explorer Center allowed me a little bit more time to explore raptors. And then as our Edgerton Center partnered with Fontenelle Forest, we were able to get 3 education birds, which we do programs on site and traveling programs. So it's a combination of all those things that has brought me here today with you guys. And to start off with, I would like just a little bit to inform you of what a raptor is, okay? So to start out with, they're a little bit different than just their songbirds that we see, okay? So raptors have special characteristics and they have kind of a special definition. And as I do my education programs, I like to involve my audience with that. So those that have an answer can raise their hand and let me know what they think a raptor is. Anybody have an idea of why we call them a raptor? Yes. They do have very strong characteristics, their talent. Especially, they're called a bird of prey, okay? So birds of prey need special talents and beaks, okay? So we're gonna talk about one of them over here. And in the raptor world, we have many different kinds of raptors, okay? Not just in general a raptor. So if we were to break it down, we're going to have 5 different species of raptors. Now I'm going to ask you to help me name those 5 different species. Okay, number 1, hawk. Okay, number 2, owl. Number 3, falcon. Okay, so now we're down to the last 2. What would those last 2 be? An eagle and a vulture. Okay, so there are the 5 different kinds that we have. Now, of course, in each one of those, we have many different kinds. So this one here, being in the hawk family, his species is called a Swainson's hawk. Okay. Now, one that we see a lot around our area are the red-tailed hawks. Okay, so Roy is not from Nebraska all the time. So as a bird that does not live here all the time, that makes him a migratory bird. All right, so Roy comes to us as an injured bird back in 2018. And he was a young first-year bird. So all raptors are pretty much hatched out in the springtime. And then as they grow and fledge off the nest and travel with their parents, whatever, they get maybe into some trouble sometime, or as Roy got sick with West Nile and ended up with a fractured wing also. So Roy was, let's see, 2018, so now he's going to be going into his 4th year, all right? Now, as a young bird, sometimes They look a little bit different. We can probably think more of the bald eagle. The bald eagle isn't always a white head when he is a youngster. And Roy, as a youngster, did not have his pretty feathering. All right. He actually looked a little bit like this. I have a card for you. So Roy came to us, like I said, in 2018, and you can noticeably tell the coloring underneath his neck, the feathers. So he's molted those out. And when they molt their feathers out, unlike us as humans, we cut our hair, they grow in a new feather. Okay. And as he matured, he became now with this nice colored bib underneath his neck, and he also has nice coloring underneath his wings. So when you're trying to identify different kind of birds, a lot of times you have to look for certain identification factors, okay? So if he's flying above, that would be one of the things is to look for his bib. Now, when Roy was injured out by Scott's Bluff, okay, then that's where our Raptor program kind of helped. We transferred him through many different people to our Raptor Center down by Lincoln. And in the Raptors world, if a bird is not able to fly freely, because they have to be able to catch their food, there's not a lot of choices for them. They become either education birds or they're put down. Okay. So for Roy, he was a very good bird and his mannerisms, and he became our education bird. Now, as a Swainson hawk, when I said that they migrate, they during the winter time go clear down to where the blue part is, and that is in Argentina. Okay. So now, since it's springtime, they're going to be starting to make their migration back up, and they can go clear up into Alaska. So they have a very, very long migration flight that they do. So kind of in the fall, what happened with Roy was they were gathering for migration, and we noticed maybe if we cut the corn, soybean fields or whatever, sometimes you'll see many birds hanging out on center pivots or on posts. These guys migrate in groups like that and gather and then make their migration. And so they're hunting a lot of grasshoppers and mice out of the fields at that time. Other things that he likes to eat are small game birds, quail, and pheasants. Okay. So they're kind of important in the food chain, kind of help control those excess mice and grasshoppers that are notorious for ruining some of our gardens. So now Roy, I keep calling him Roy as a boy. How would I know that he's a boy? In the raptor world, there's different characteristics between a boy and a girl, not necessarily in their coloring, but in their size. Okay, so now if we're going to look at him, I don't have any comparison with him, or I can go by weight. And if I had a female and a male standing side by side, let's take a poll. Who says that the male is going to be larger? Raise your hand. Okay. Who thinks the female is going to be larger? Raise their hand. And then I always throw this one, who doesn't know? Okay, so this is a good way that you learn something. So the raptors, the female is going to be larger. Okay. Now, weight-wise, that's why if I can weigh him and compare to another one, I could tell the difference between the weight. Or if I was also had a female with us, we could tell. She's going to be the one that's going to protect the nest a little bit more. They mate for life. Raptors are pretty much territorial. They come back to the same area and nest again. And then also, like I said, mate for life. So in that aspect, she's gonna be the one that's gonna take care of the babies a little bit more. He's gonna provide the food, okay? Now, they're gonna take turns, because she needs a break every once in a while, like all of us girls, we need a break from housework or feeding the kids. And he will take his turn also, but she's gonna be the one that's gonna protect the nest a little bit more. Okay? Now, we can look, their talons and their beak are specific for a raptor, right? So when I say they're birds of prey, that means they are using their talons to seize their prey, all right? Then they use their beak to tear up the food and to eat it. Okay, so their feet are very tall, very strong, and their talons are very sharp. So that's why I use the glove. Okay, even though Roy is very gentle, I have to say. So he trusts me. You know, there's a lot of time that goes into working with that education bird. They have to trust me, and I'm going to trust him that he's not going to attack me either, right? Okay. Okay, I know he knows. He knows I'm talking about. So, talking about their talons and their beak, just like our fingernails, they continue to grow. Their talons and their beak grow also, but in the wild, a lot of times they can wear them off and sharpen them to keep them nice and pointy and strong. Okay, in captivity, a lot of times I have to cope them because he's not going from a lot of branches and doing a lot of landing and stuff. So we do that and we call that coping. So we'll trim off his beak a little bit and we'll trim his talons a little bit too. So they have very good eyesight. How many of you have been able to sneak up on a raptor? Not very easily, right? They're sitting on a post and you're going to walk by or drive by and they fly off. So man is their worst enemy or their predator, okay? And in some aspects, when they're eating, scavenging alongside of the road, there's roadkill, that's what happens sometimes when they get in trouble because they are eating, not paying attention, a car comes by, and when they go to fly up, they fly into the car, and that's why we have many of them with wing injuries, head injuries from car strikes. Okay. Roy's gonna live around 20 to 25 years, okay? Now, because he is in captivity, he's probably gonna live a little bit longer. He has a pretty easy life because Deb gives him his meal every day, okay? He doesn't have to migrate, so he doesn't have to worry about that stress on him. And also, I help keep him warm during the winter time, so he doesn't have to worry about going without food. Because sometimes if it's a blizzard or something, they might not have a chance to hunt. So he's gonna get his food every day, make sure that he is safe that way. All right, any questions about Roy as a hawk here? Yes.
Because he's out of domesticated, so I've heard that he's not in the wild. You do any further grooming other than coping and so forth?
No.
With his feathers?
No, he takes care of that. Now, when he was really sick, and that's why this part of his wing with those feathers, when he broke that wing, he did not preen his feathers very good in that area. And because he was so sick, that did not heal correctly. So that's why the feathers are kind of out of place there. But otherwise, he does a pretty good job. Yes.
I'm wondering if birds have personality.
I think so. Ted over there, we'll see, he's a little bit hyper, and Roy's pretty much laid back. Doc is just kind of like, don't look at me because I feel like I'm a statue back there. And Roy, he won't talk to anybody else, but when I go into his cage, he will talk to me early in the morning and stuff. So I think he knows, you know, been around him for a couple of years now, so I think he's very comfortable in that aspect. My other coworkers do go in there and help also, but he doesn't respond to them quite the same as with me. Yes.
And there's some that are very intelligent, and they will know their names, and while there's other birds like the break cages. You know, I saw a lady with the top of me, she had an old needle. And she knew her name, she was.
Yeah. Well, I think, working with him the same way, and I know with falconers, they train their birds to go out and hunt, and they bring them back, so, there is that respect and training that they go through a lot with them. And you gotta work with them pretty much every day. Yeah. Yes. You cannot hold them. No. I know, but I have something that you can hold, okay? This, when I said that they molted their feathers, this is one of Roy's feathers. So you can touch this, and you can pass it around so that other people can hold it too. Okay? So Roy weighs around 2 pounds. 2 pounds of a lot of feathers, but there is a little bit there. So any other questions about Roy? I'm going to put him up on a stand. We can still kind of talk about him.
I have a question.
Yes.
How much can he fly?
Roy can flap. If he were to take off from his stand without his jesses and stuff, he wouldn't make it past the tables over there. He gets no lift. So as we all know, range of motion is very important with our body. And as a bird, they have to be able to get that lift and good range of motion. And with Roy, since his wing there is broken, it does not allow him to get the proper lift. And so he wouldn't. And that's why, as a raptor, if they can't fly and they're grounded, they're gonna either starve to death or they're gonna be food for someone else. Okay. So it's very important that they are able to see well and to fly well.
I have another question. So a guy yesterday told me that the West Nile virus wiped out like some species, like he said the magpies got wiped out.
Yeah, and the black cap chickadees were affected really bad. We've had the great horned owls affected seriously with West Nile, and then one year it was like the Cooper's hawks. It just kind of kind of went through different ones.
And did they come back? I mean,
Well, they are making a little more of a comeback, and of course the great horned owls are native to Nebraska. They're one of the most predominant species of owls that we have here, and they're doing quite well. And the Cooper's hawks are doing quite well too. The black cap chickadees are starting to come back as far as the songbirds, but it's taken quite a bit of time for that too. Yeah.
What special training did you get in order to handle it?
Well, so that falls into getting the permit. So I had to do a lot of handling around the bird, glove training, learning a little bit of taking care of him and of all of them. So I had to have, I don't know, over 100 hours of training with them. And then I had to build their houses specifically for them. So you just can't have a cage for them. They have to have a certain size in the cage. So his is like a 6x6x8. These guys are 5x5s by 3. So that it goes all into the Fish and Wildlife. Fish and Wildlife has to approve the cages, the perches, sizes, and then approve me to be on the permit, because you guys just can't handle or have a raptor as a pet, all right? You have to have a special permit, okay? They fall under the Endangered Species Act, and so it's not like a parakeet or whatever. Raptors, you have to have a special permit to have them, and even to transport them. I have a permit for picking up injured birds also. Okay, that answer your question? Okay, any other questions about kind of what I do and anything about the birds with Roy? Okay, well, let's go check on this other little guy over here, because I know he's excited. Oh, yeah. Yes, this little guy, as we have said, he's in the falcon family, and the falcon family, they're really pretty neat as far as different characteristics. So he's the smallest in the falcon family. We always think about the peregrine falcon, right? Then we have a prairie falcon, and then we have a merlin, and then we have our American kestrel. Now, I have to say, this is going into breeding season. So Ted here is quite active and really quite pretty right now. His nares, which is around his nose, are very yellow right now. So that just means that he's getting all pretty and ready to find his mate for the year. He's a boy. Okay, and in the falcon family, the boys and the girls are a little bit different as far as their coloring. He's a lot prettier. The females are a little less colorful, a little more spotted. Maybe the size is still the same, but as falcons go, she's going to be less pretty because she's going to be in the nest protecting the babies. Okay, they nest in tree cavities, or you can make a nest box for them. Okay, these guys are native to Nebraska. They live here all year round, and they have some really cool special characteristics in the falcon family. Now, as we can see on his face, he has those black stripes, right? Those black stripes really help him when he's hunting during the daytime. We might think of our sports people, football players, baseball players, when they put that stuff on their face, that black stuff, it's not just to make them look mean. It helps them with the sunlight, okay? So if they're hunting and flying around and the bright light, those black stripes help deflect the sunlight so that they can see better, okay? So the kestrel has two. The peregrine and the prairie and the merlin only have one large one. So he has two. Okay. He is about the size of a robin. He's not much bigger than that. He weighs about 148 grams. Another cool feature of our kestrel is they have a little bone structure in their nose, a little cone-shaped structure in their nose. Now it's kind of hard to see for everybody, but as I go around, that cone structure in their nose helps them when they're in their stoop and they're flying to catch their prey. And he can fly up to maybe 60 to 70 miles per hour. The peregrine can reach over 200 miles an hour. So it is the fastest animal on the planet, okay? So that little bone structure in his nose helps to equalize the air pressure, all right? So for us, if we were sticking our head out of a car window going really fast, how that takes our breath away, kind of catches our breath. Well, that bone in there helps to slow down the air and equalize the air pressure from the outside versus going into his lungs. Also keeping an eye on, he's got some really cool features on the back of his head. He's got some little dots back there. That's another special protection for him. They're called ocelli, which are fake eyes. So because he's so small, a Cooper hawk likes to raid bird feeders and also little kestrels too. So that's kind of his protective. If he's down on the ground and a big bird is flying around and sees those little black dots back there, you might think that he's been spotted and will attack him.
What is this injury?
So Ted came to us as a young kestrel, so he was in the nest, and the person cut down the tree. He did not know that there was a nest in his tree. When he was cleaning up the tree, he found Ted in there, and by then his wing, which was fractured up by his shoulder, had already started to heal. So there was not a lot of chance for him, to re-break it or to pin it or whatever. So of course, and it was his right one, so you can see how it hangs down a little bit, and so that's up by his shoulder. So of course, he became an education bird, so he's going on 10 years old this year. And his lifespan will be around 12 to 16 years. Now, I don't know if I can get Ted to do this, but it's kind of cool because as a little bird sitting on a wire on a windy day, and he sees his prey, he's going to lock onto it, or when he's flying in the air and he sees like a dragonfly or a locust or whatever, he locks onto that because they have like almost two focal, we have a pupil, they have like two of them, and he can focus on them, and then he can, let's see, Ted. So they kind of have like a gyro on his neck so he can stay focused while his body's moving.
Is that for other problems too?
Yes. So then with his eyesight also, they have the ability to see in ultraviolet. Okay. So we have to use a black light, right, to have highlights of, say, body fluids. So think of now in the science and the CSI investigators, and they're doing a crime scene, and they spray the luminol, and then they take that, and then those body fluids are highlighted. Well, if he's setting up on the wire and a little mouse runs by, and the little mouse goes to the bathroom, he can see that little trail of urine and follow it, and which helps him to catch his prey. Okay. So I said before, he eats locusts and dragonflies and grasshoppers. He also eats predominantly the mice, the voles, those kind of rodents also. One thing about our little kestrels is habitat. Just like what we're working with, like the cranes maintaining a habitat. So the more that we cut down trees, the less habitat that they have for their nesting opportunities. The more that we spray and kill the insects, that limits their food sources. So then they have to go hunting other places for them. So they were having a little bit of a decline in their numbers. And so we've been watching that very carefully as to how that's affecting them.
The numbers start declining because, like, when they started putting up nesting boxes, you know, no highways and stuff, it was. the numbers were going up for a while.
Well, they're nesting, but those are maybe the bluebird ones or the swallows that you see along the highways. These guys like to nest a little bit higher up into a wooded area and into the trees.
Okay, but when did you notice the numbers start?
Oh, it's been a couple years that they have watched, you know, they noticed that, you know, these people that are birding and you're not seeing as many of the kestrels out and around. Yeah. Now, any questions about Ted? Cover it pretty good.
Did you want to talk about, kestrels, the oldie being sparrowhawks?
I didn't say that about them. No, being sparrowhawk.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know specifically how they got a nickname. I guess you're trying to say that they have a nickname, just like a Cooper's hawk. Some of them all have nicknames and stuff too. The peregrine, I think. Yeah, I'm not for sure if he would have that kind of a nickname as a sparrowhawk. Yours have that too? I heard of the falcon, the gray falcons and stuff being more of the sparrowhawks. Any questions over there? I have a couple feathers from Ted that we can pass around that you can see from Ted. Do you have a question? Are you just stretching your arm? Well, you know, just like the other ones, I have to go in and talk to him and be around him an awful lot. Now, he's still very hyper. I mean, if you saw how he likes to fly around a little bit, but once I get him, he knows that I'm not going to hurt him. And that makes a big difference too. And then plus, he knows that I bring him his dinner. All right, doesn't that earn your trust right there? I think so. Okay. Now their names were sponsors. So we had people that kind of bid and sponsored, and the winner then was able to pick a name. So I didn't really choose, they just all kind of came that way, except I got to choose this little guy's name. And I'm going to pass this around too, because these are from a Cooper's hawk. So you can see the difference on their legs. And since I'm going to be getting the owl out, I have a couple of them here, so I'll pass these around so you can see the difference with an owl and their legs. So those are from different species of owls. So there's like the great horned owl, the barred owl, and the screech owl. And so when some birds are injured or they were dead, we were able to get artifacts from them so that we can do education with those parts. I mean, how else are you going to be able to get up close to see a wing?
How many different types of owls are there?
In this area, predominantly we have the great horned owl, the screech owl, This one is an eastern screech owl. Sometimes we get the short-eared owl, which is some that come down here during the winter and then migrate back up north. So we've had short-eared owls even out here on the Crane Trust property. Sometimes you get a long-eared owl. They're kind of a wooded owl. Barred owls are a little bit more eastern and river, like south. What other owls would be around here? They're not those. Those are probably a little bit bigger than him. There's still a pygmy owl, a virginous owl, a solid owl. They're all smaller than Doc. The great horned owl. Oh, in the trees around here. Oh, yeah, great horned owls are native to this area. So now this being a little screech owl, and he came to us from Bellevue. Now think about Bellevue is in the city. Question.
No,
Oh,
I was gonna say, what other we get here lately, the last few years, is snow owl.
oh, when we have had a couple snowies, yeah, it seems like a couple years and then they have an eruption of them and then, and they're notorious for, being in the Arctic, the snowy owls. So anyway, this little guy is, an eastern screech owl. So if we kind of look at his picture, his eastern screech owl means that he is, basically we cut the United States in half. All right, there is a western screech owl. And then we have the eastern screech owl. I know, I'm too close. He's keeping his eye on the hawk. Don't get me too close to that guy. So now looking at my little screech owl here, and like I said, he's a boy and came from Bellevue. His wing noticeably is way droopier than the other one. So where he broke his up by his shoulder also, he can't hold it up there, but he can flap his wings. So it healed, but it just didn't heal straight across. It overlapped a little bit. So he can fly in his house enough that he can get from one perch to the other. Okay. Now, talking about owls, certain owls are nighttime owls, right? So if it's a nighttime hunter, what are they called? Nocturnal, okay? So they come out when the sun goes to bed and they start hunting then. Now, if we can notice that he has very large eyes, okay? When he is at nighttime, their eyes don't move, right? They're very big, their eyes stay fixed. Unlike humans, we have many ligaments and muscles around our eyes to move. Now with Doc here, if he's to look around, he has to turn his head. Okay. So I would like you all to pretend to be an owl. Okay. So if you put your hands up over your eyes like you're looking through binoculars. Okay. Now, if you were to follow me around the room with your binoculars on, you have to turn your head, right? Now, as a human, I can turn and I can look over here. I see you looking at me. And I can look over here. I can look up. He is not able to do that. He has to turn his head. All right. One of the things that people think is owls can turn their head all the way around. Now, if I were to do that, that's a 360-degree turn. Remember, we have a spinal cord, and we can't twist that spinal cord and injure that. So humans, look over your right shoulder and then look over your left shoulder. So we have 180, okay? An owl can do 270. 270 is about like this. So I can look back there at the crane's there, or I can look back here and see the crane over there. But in order for me to do that, you notice that I had to turn my waist and rotate my shoulders a little bit. I could not turn my neck. How many cervical vertebrae does humans have? 7, okay? An owl has 12. All right, so with those added vertebrae, that gives them more range of motion. All right. Now, if you were looking at the little feet that I send around, you notice that they have feathers clear down to their talons. Okay, here is a dog feather. I'll pass these around, and I'll put one over here, and I'll send one over on this side. Notice the edges of these feathers. They're very soft and they're very fringed out. Now, owls are very quiet flyers, all right? Very silent. When they're flying at night, you can hardly hear them flapping. A barn owl has given like 0 on the scale of noise when they have tested them. So their feathers are very soft. Here is a little screech owl. And here is a barred owl. Okay, feel how soft they are? So they absorb the sound, the wind so much better with those fringes and being soft that can make them very silent flyers. Okay. As Doc, when I was talking about his eyes, where are his ears located? Looking at Doc here, or any owl, where are their ears located? Where? Right above their eyes. So the little feathers that stick up there, their feathers are called plumicorn feathers. They have what is called a facial disc, all right? If we were to look at them in the dark, feathering around his eyes, that is where you're going to find his ears, okay? In that facial disc, one ear is located a little bit higher and angled downward, the other ear a little lower and angled upward. So now we get to go into some science. If we take 3 points, so between our eyes and our ears, we call that triangulation. So when we're hunting, you can triangulate to find your prey, okay? That is very beneficial. Now, if I was to look inside of his ear in that facial disc, I would see the back of his eye. So their eyes are almost like an orange shaped. They're not really round. And their eyes are so big because they don't move, right? I can see the back of his eye in his ear. Now, as he's sitting here on my hand, he's pretty squatty, but they do have long legs. I mean, Roy, you can see his legs a little bit. Their hips and their femurs are located up closer into their body where their pelvis is. Doc, he's being pretty squatty here. I'm gonna have, now that you've felt the owl wing, I'm gonna have you feel, this is a red-tailed hawk, and this is the Cooper's hawk. Feel the difference between the feathers that were just passed around and these. Who has heard a screech owl? Okay. I think it's a really cute call. It doesn't depict their name at all, right? So I'm gonna play the little screech owl call. And then maybe you will go, oh, I have heard that before. Okay. Do that again. Listen very carefully to the first part. Okay, so now, what does that sound like to you? Does that sound screechy? Not screechy at all. First part of this call, if I said it was a horse whinnying, does that sound like a horse whinnying? And then it kind of has the trill in the middle, and then it whinnies again. So it's really, they call it his whinny call. And as they communicate from one, partner to another, they have certain calls that they make. Great horned owls do a hoot. Hoot, hoot, hoot. And the barred owl does the who cooks for you. So, and the barn owl, well, so let's just play the barn owl, okay? I think I have the barn owl on here. That's a barn. The barn owl. So the barn owl, the gray ghost or the ghost, they're the very white looking one. That one is the screechiest one. The barn, here's the gray horn. So that would be the gray horned owl. Now the barred owl, which was the one feather that I passed around. Okay. So they have different calls, different ones. Most generally, the hawks have kind of like a screechy call. I mean, I have Roy's call too. It's not a real famous call. Let's see here. A Swenson's hawk sounds like this. Oops, better turn it on. Kind of screechy. Okay. The Cooper's hawk is one that kind of barks. Okay. I don't have the eagle. I think the eagle is one that, for being such a majestic kind of bird, it has kind of a soft kind of call. And so a lot of times they don't put that on because it just doesn't match his majestic display. Anyway. Doc probably won't say too much, only I suppose if I get over there, he would like give me the warning call. But he doesn't talk that much either. Kind of the most vocal one. He lets me have it all the time. Any questions about Doc? Yes. I think the western is more of the brownish color. In the eastern, we have the red morph, which they have the rufusy looking kind. And they have a different call between the eastern and the western. They have a different kind of call. that they came out. One cool thing that I show, if the little screech owl or any kind of owl is setting up in the tree, you would have a hard time picking him out, because for one, he's not gonna have his eyes really wide open like this. He's gonna have his eyes closed, but if you look carefully, you can see why they blend in with the tree. The feathering that they have masks the bark. So they blend in quite a bit, and unless you would see him fly in there, you would think that he's just a tree branch setting up there. This photo here is one of a screech owl in his little nest cavity. So they nest, same thing as a kestrel. He is in his little nest, peeking out, and see how he squints his eyes? The eyes will give it away, but here he squints them. He'll look just like the tree. Okay. So they're very camouflaged. Yes. Well, very good point. I don't know how old he is, because in the raptor world, once they become an adult, and they would be adult the second year, you can't really age them, because they look exactly, from one to another. Now, a bald eagle, we're looking at 1 through 5 before they get their white head. After 5, you would know how old they are. Same thing with Roy there. Once he's now 3, he's now got his adult feathering. So if he would come in now into our center, I wouldn't know how old he was. I could say he was 3, I could say he was 10. So Doc, I'm not for sure how old he is. I have been now going on 3 years. Well, we had the COVID year, well, that notorious COVID year. So I didn't get to do programs that year. So now we're just getting out with the programs. Yeah, they have really, really cute eyelashes, and they have even feathers on their eyelids. Any other questions while I'm just kind of walking around for y'all to get a good look at him? What does he eat? He eats mice. He eats insects. So thinking about why maybe they like to be in town is we have a lot of street lights. A lot of street lights attract bugs, insects. Lightning bugs are very plentiful in the summertime there when they're all out. And I think because they hang out around the street lights, grabbing insects that way. Oh, they can blink one, yeah.
What kind did you say there's a barn and there's what's the other one?
Bard, a barn owl, a barred owl, a gray horned owl.
Greyhound, yeah.
Is that a baby bird?
Nope, he's full grown. And there's owls that are smaller than him. He is not the smallest of them. I tell you though, little means nothing. They're still very ferocious. If I didn't have my glove on, they like to, well, when they bite you, then they like to twist. Cause you to bleed. Any other questions? Yes.
So those are ears. What do they do?
So the plumicorn feathers, are specifically like his mood. So you can bring them up if he's really anxious and alert. Or if he's calm or whatever, he'll have them down. So, no, he's on alert. He's like very, very engaged with what's going on. He's having a stare down with you. Well, I can touch him. I mean, he will let me touch him. He's like. He does have a beak in there. Enjoy his beak. One interesting thing, raptors. We talk about pellets. We in the science do owl pellets, but all raptors will expel a pellet. Okay, so think about their ingesting their food. So when they catch their food, they are going to eat everything. They're going to eat the bones, they're going to eat the feathers, they're going to eat the fur. They can't digest all that. So they form a pellet. And before their next meal, then they will expel that pellet. And it's not that you're saying it's throwing up or whatever, but they have to make room for their next meal. So owls, of course, notoriously get the owl pellet deal, but for science, we do a lot of dissection of owl pellets. Then you can see what they've ate. You can pick out the bones and try to match them up to see what kind of critter they have ate. I mean, it's a good science project. We do that for our kids quite a bit at the center.
So they regurgitate.
They regurgitate it. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to get really into science biology here. So as humans, we go number one and go number two. They only go number one. Okay. They only have one way to expel their body fluid that way. The other, the harder parts, they have to expel out in a pellet.
Is that true with all raptors?
All raptors. Yes. They do drink water, but a lot of times their moisture comes from their food. Now that they do like to go and bathe in the water, and they will drink water also. But a lot of times, you know, their moisture comes from their food.
Another question. Is ospreys a raptor, right?
Yes, it is. It classifies kind of in the Baltic Gulf.
Okay.
Yeah. Larger raptors.
Can you do the gyro?
Yeah, what now?
Can you do the gyro with him?
Not necessarily, he won't do the gyro, he just like.
Could we really begin to
Oh, yes, some like barn owls are probably the easiest one because they're raised and for that, because barn owls are very hard to get in the wild to turn into an education bird. They are really nighttime birds, really nighttime birds. So they usually raise them and they will sell them, I guess, or people will, like Raptor programs will buy them and train them to be their education bird, more around people and stuff. So it's easier when they're younger, what they call when they imprint on you. So all animals, I mean ducks or whatever, if you have an animal and you raise them as a youngster, they will imprint on you. I know we had a turkey vulture that somebody tried to raise at home and it got too hard, so they turned it into the Raptor Center. We tried to get it to be wild and we released it and it came back and was biting at people's strings and begging for food and stuff. So, even though he could fly and he was very well, he still was too accustomed to humans. So he's now in education.
Where's your map?
It's located outside of Lincoln, Elmwood by Eagle, Nebraska.
Visit and go to that.
You can call and set up an appointment and get a tour. Yes. Otherwise, then there's Spot Mill Forest, which has Raptor Woodland, and they have lots of birds on display for you to see. But the hospital part where our birds go into is by Elmwood. And that one, because it's a hospital, we, the birds are injured and we want to keep them isolated enough so that we can get them back in the wild. Yeah. I actually have in my car a great horned owl that has been in our center since December. And he's gonna go free now tonight. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this one, so raptors, because of their territory, wherever they were picked up, we try to take them back to that area to release them. Okay. So, and as anything, our Raptor Conservation Alliance is a nonprofit. And because like this bird has been in since December, the amount of money that is put into food, they can eat, 3 to 6 mice a night at, $6 a night. He's accrued quite a little bill in the, it's time to get him out and get out into wild hunting and doing his thing on controlling our rodent population. He is very hot and nervous, so he's stressed a little bit. So he's cooling off, dancing like a dog. Yes, yes.
I know they're wild animals, but they're somewhat, but used to be in captivity now. How are they when they're in the cage and so?
Pretty calm. So a lot of times when even falconers or whatever, when they have a bird and they're hunting with them or whatever, they have a hood. So they put that hood over them. So anytime their eyes are covered or their heads are covered and they're in a dark, enclosed place, they're a lot calmer. Yeah. That helps.
Is your turkey over there something else?
Well, they release him at Pioneer Park, and he just decided he liked to hang around people. Yeah, but he's not there anymore. He's in our Raptor Center now. I mean, he's in the education program. Yeah. Probably not unless he was brought in and you would get that. Yeah, address for it. I think David Parks does a nest count to see where all the nesting are. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right now, the gray horns have probably, their babies, they've already nested and their babies have hatched. And so they're the earliest ones that nest, the gray horns. And the bald eagles are probably in the nesting phase right now. I don't think those have hatched yet. They should be quite hatching.
Are raptors mated for life?
Yes. Yeah. Unless something happens to them, they will find another mate then.
How long does it take, this variety of owls to extract?
I think most raptors are around 25 to 37 days. I know the bald eagle is a little bit on the 37 to 40 days. These guys are probably the 24 to 27. Anybody want a photo with the little guy? We can take a photo. I will take a photo with him here. All right, you have to stand here. Who's gonna take a photo? You have to stand right here. Turn around, face that way. Okay, stand still. Stand still. Stand still. Smile. Smile.
Wow.
That's
Say thank you.
Oh, that was a bird pose.
AJ, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yes,
May I just take a picture of her?
you may take a picture of him. Yep.
I have a
He's
question.
very still. You have a question? We have a question.
Well, I mean, I specifically have a question. So like, is there a discrepancy between their mechanical sounds and like their vocals? So like songbirds obviously have a difference between their mechanics and their vocals, and some species have to learn their songs. Is there a difference in that with raptors?
No, it's always pretty much inbred in them.
Nice. So just straight out of the nest as an egg, they already know their songs and calls.
Because even when they're on the nest in the egg
Mhm.
and their parents are calling, they're kind of picking up those sounds through the egg.
Which is unique to each nest, correct? Okay.
Because I know, I would say cowbirds
Yeah.
are notorious for depositing an egg in somebody else's
Mhm.
nest, but they still become a cowbird.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, so I'm on that thing for some reason. What am I hearing when I?
Okay, we have a good time with spices. Yeah. That is.
That is an owl.
Mhm. It is.
It's just not that kind.
It isn't this guy.
I can see.
Maybe not with the owl.
Okay.
We take our photo.
You may take a photo. Which one do you want? You want the owl, you want the hawk, you want the, you can take all of them. If you want to stand beside them, I can take your photo too, or somebody can take your photo if you want to stand beside them.
Yeah, that's great.
If you want to take this one out, since I have him on my gloves, so they can take it with them here. Or you can just take that. If you want to be in the photo or you just want to.
Yeah.
You can do it. Just
Don't get too close.
don't go behind him too much. Yeah, just kind of hyper, just get up there beside him. Oh, I know, I got the call. Or just stand there, I can take it.
No, you're good.
All right. Yeah, line yourself up there. Stand, be good.
Just gonna sneak.
No, I don't.
Oh, good job. You've done that.
So how many birds are in your refuge?
Oh my gosh, I know, I just went and got the owl this morning and we had 11 bald eagles. We're down to 7 now. We need some. Some of them have to go to education programs because they're non-releasable. I know we have a burrowing owl, and we've had the burrowing owl since last fall, and we can't release him until like May when the weather gets better. I know there's a lot of red-tailed hawks, more great-horned owls. I'm not for sure. I think we had a couple barred owls, and we did have a number of snowy owls, like 3. and we were able to send them up to Minnesota to be released.
So are you able to rehabilitate most of the animals?
Yeah, it's almost like a 50-50. Yeah, yeah.
What are the most common injuries that you?
The wing injuries, yeah, very, very